Just
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
In 1937, Detroit was in turmoil. Auto workers were on strike, and union strength was growing. A local minister and part-time labor broadcaster was found fatally injured at the Ford Rouge assembly plant. These dramatic events come to life in the play Forgotten, the murder at the Ford Rouge plant.
The boss has got to sign when you organize.
Actors, singers, and musicians tell the true story of how Detroiters built a union town while searching for clues to solve a mysterious death.
The strength of 100,000.
See Forgotten at Marygrove Theater, October 10th through the 12th. Tickets are $35 at Eventbrite or at MichiganLaborHistorySociety.com.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, and broadcasting in what everybody would consider to be not very normal times. That's right, folks. It is October the 3rd here in Detroit, and it's going to be 84 degrees, 85 tomorrow. Nothing normal about that. So, oh yeah, there's also the social and the political that's not normal, and we'll dive right into that today as well. Joining us is Public Relations Specialist Beverly Watts, pollster Ed Sarpolus, two of our three esteemed lawyers, Joel Sklar and Bill Seikaly, labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Well, Nancy, I know that you are certainly a hawk when it comes to looking at grammar, syntax, and delivery of speeches. And boy, was there one that was served up on a silver platter for you this week involving President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense/War, Pete Hegseth, who apparently had corralled all of the top brass of the military from around the world to come to Quantico, Virginia, sit in an auditorium so that he could hear, and we have excerpts of it, this, Allan.
We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes. To just tell it like it is in plain English. To point out the obvious things right in front of us.
Okay, you suck monkey butt.
And just as it said on Pete's Tinder profile, no fatties allowed.
Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
You know, that reminded me so much.
can't make this up.
So much opening scene of Patton and him being Patton in front of us.
That was so obvious that it was supposed to be. They were trying to suggest that that was one of the most shameful.
Oh,
I mean,
embarrassing.
every week we find a new bottom, but that was one that was just like, you know.
Nancy, we have no more bottom. That's gone.
No, we really don't. We're digging our way to China. So that's
it's like bottomless fries at Red Robin's.
Yeah, you know, but the response the generals and the brass that was there, they have to be horrified by what they see.
Yeah.
They have to be horrified by what they see and what they're hearing and what they, you know, the beauty of them bringing them together, not just to mingle and say, hey, name tag, whoever the hell you are. Was that they got to see Trump in real life, in real time, along with the Secretary of War, you know, and that is critical because I think the military, I'm hoping, they're serious guys. They know that he's destroying our country. They know that he's taking away our defenses, our alliances. They know that he's crippling us domestically and abroad, that there's a war within, something that's insane. I hope that the military, you know, stays out of this, that they can, you know, does not endorse anything that he does.
It's their mission for them to stay non-political. I mean, they're supposed to be non-political, and that's why.
Right.
I mean, I think if even any of them were inclined to laugh at some of those ridiculous jokes that or the laugh lines that Trump thought he had there. I mean, I'm sure they were. They wouldn't have. They were not supposed to. But something that I saw pointed out by a smart writer who's a West Point grad is that these people, when you rise to that level in the military, most of them, many of them are classmates from West Point for the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy. They've known each other forever. They have respect for one another. Hegseth was in the National Guard, okay? And yes, he did combat duty. He was a war fighter in Iraq and Afghanistan, but he never rose beyond the rank of major. And so, in the Army hierarchy or the military hierarchy, he's a pipsqueak. He's not a career man. He's that's generally who would be the Secretary of Defense, is somebody who truly knows the organization from the inside out. I mean, he's like a G.I. Joe, cosplayer somehow. And for him to stand up and tell them that, they're wrong to allow women in combat roles, that, only, super fighting he-men can do this, it was insulting. And I'm not surprised that they sat there stone-faced, even if they were, not more or less required to.
Well, the important thing for me was there was no formality. No salute, no attention. There was no nothing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, I've been in events and I've got family members that are generals. No, there was no formality. It was a big joke.
Yeah.
Did any of you, in your entire life, did any of you think that you would have the thought, I wish there was a military coup?
Yeah.
What? The world
hey, Barb. I was born in Pakistan, so hold my water.
I have a niece who is currently serving in the armed forces, and she is a Navy nurse, but she served in Afghanistan with Marines. She was on a Marine base, and she was in the worst fighting. What she endured was something so awful. She came home so fucked up. And she's good, and she's still in the service, and she's still serving. But it's like she could take Pete Hegseth and kind of go like this, and first he'd cry, and then it'd piss his pants, and then he would be broken in two, and she wouldn't even have a sweat. And I kind of wish she would. But it's so insulting to anyone that knows anybody in the armed forces.
Right.
To hear this.
I do think that one of the most troubling parts of this for me was that how much they went out of their way to insult the troops and the commanders.
Yeah,
we have a history of you guys being inept. We have a history of you. And the fact of the matter is just not true. The military is kind of proud of the fact that we don't care what the politics are. We're here, we're ready, and we're going to defend our country. He was insulting, he was demeaning, and then he was absolutely inconsistent with the ethos of the military. This idea, and I was trying to watch the crowd when they pan on him, of we ought to use the cities as the training grounds for the military. I mean,
that's prepping us for what's going to happen in 26, potentially in 28.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, I have some comments about that. I agree with you, Ed. I think that the worst thing about what's going on right now is the normalcy of this craziness that he's engaged in. Absolutely. And the idea of having troops in our cities become normalized.
Right.
Well, but I think that he was so insulting to these generals about their history, number one, and two, what their role is in society.
You know what I would have liked to have seen? A scene like this from the generals.
Blowjob!
No, Alan, Otter's speech that would have talked about this being America would have actually been a step up. So on that point, though, I mean, Bill, I think he was talking to the generals and the brass the same way that incoming recruits are spoken to on the first day of boot camp, as a dehumanizing, demoralizing, deconstructive way, and then trying to build them up, but with no build up in the future. Hegseth was also calling for a return to a presidential fitness test that the president himself would never be able to pass.
Yeah.
But
Tubby.
Right. But Saeed, I want you to know that I happen to agree with Hegseth on this. I think that fat people should not be allowed to lead the military, and I don't think Trump should be allowed to lead the military. So we agree.
I think it's
insulting.
I think it's interesting coming from a guy who had a serious alcohol problem, who has sexual problems, and is talking about standards for the military. There's no fucking way in hell this guy should be the secretary of whatever it is called now. You know, he just would not qualify. He would not have passed the test, the background test.
One of the best things I saw was when he said that there's going to be no more beards in the military. Someone showed a picture of Ulysses S. Grant.
Well, on that subject, you know, it's the same thing I read by the West Pointer points out. That is an openly racist policy, because most of the people in the military who have what they call shaving waivers are black men, because black men, if they shave too close every day, they some of them anyway tend to get this bumps, you know, razor bumps, basically.
Keloids.
Not keloids. It's called pseudofolliculitis barbae. And it's and so it's not serious. I mean, it's just the best way to treat it is just to let your beard grow out a little bit, and it doesn't have to be, you know, this long bushy beard. It's just like you can have a neatly trimmed beard and avoid all of this, and that's who generally gets the shaving waivers.
But Nancy, why would you care for that? I mean, they've been racist all along the way. So you think they're going to care about something like that?
Well, but also yes, but you know, the military has always been a way for people of color to kind of get ahead in the world. You know, you put in your 6 years, and you can get a college education, and you can get a mortgage, and you can get all these benefits, you know, healthcare, all these benefits that we afford to veterans is our way of saying thanks. And, you know, this is a way that, and I don't know what the proportions of, you know, people of black, white, you know, brown, whatever in the
there's a lot of whites too that takes that benefit as well, because you're right. That's a pathway to assist them with benefits that they couldn't normally get in traditional, you know, 4-year colleges. So you're right, minorities, but a lot of people, they go into the armed forces for that very reason. Of course, the passion, but of course it helps them economically. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
and
Beverly
right.
In
the inner cities. That's why they recruit in high schools. I'm sorry.
Not just inner cities, Barb. I mean, I went to high school in Lapeer, and I would say probably about 10 to 15% of my graduating class went straight into the military.
Yeah, right. Yes. Exactly. It's smaller towns. I mean, it's a way to get out. It's a way to see the world.
To join the military when they come here with the immigrants, you know, it's their first sign. I am American.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So taking that away though, and I don't care what. I mean, Pete Hegseth can stand up there and have his racist ass say that our diversity is our strength is a lie. But our diversity really is our strength, because, you know, how were we ever going to fight a war in the Middle East without Arab American soldiers who spoke Arabic and could actually, you know, serve as translators or as cultural translators or any number of other things that it's really nice to have a non-Hegseth in the military doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But remember, we're going to go back to Confederate gray uniforms. You know that, don't you?
but Nancy, I think it goes back to your earlier point of why he inadequately can't feel like he can rise to the top. You know, he was never top of class to go to West Point. So I think when he has a little piece of power, the small man has to be the big man now, because he has this appointment. So he has to finally get them back, because he was never, you know, adequate enough on his own intelligence to get to where they are in that room. So that's
Well,
where it comes from.
The guy went to Princeton. I mean, he's no dummy, but you're right.
Well,
He
yeah.
didn't, you know, he didn't make a career out of the military. I mean, he joined the he's a National Guardsman. I mean, come on.
This was his moment to put that in their face.
Right.
You cannot stand the truth.
Yeah, right. You can't handle the truth. Yeah. So
I was going to say, you know, it's America has always been sort of behind. Like after 9/11, there was so much ignorance about, you know, culture, and you know, the FBI had to be educated about, you know, culture in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. They were so far behind.
And Southeast Michigan too, Alan.
Yeah, Southeast Michigan as well. Yeah, I mean, it was just so, and so to have some diversity helps, gives you a head start in catching up with that type of stuff.
But what about the point that Bill was bringing up earlier? I mean, in this week, the president has considered dispatching the National Guard to Portland. And then there was also the images coming out of Chicago, the south side, of helicopters and people rappelling down buildings, catching people in the middle of the night, including women naked or half naked, and zip tying them. And choking them too. I mean, this is
to the ground.
And I guess a side question to this is, you know, where's the mainstream media covering this, you know, more vociferously? But I guess we'll have to leave that. Joel.
It's super dangerous, obviously. You know, this is, I believe, unprecedented. It amazes me that the idea of using cities as training grounds and having military there is completely absurd. I don't understand what I think the purpose again is to control. It's remarkably disturbing to see what's going on. You know, this is bottom, and it's going to become the norm. And so Democratic cities, New York, Memphis, Chicago, New Orleans, you know, wherever there are minorities, there are going to be troops. And these guys, again, they're being brutal. They're wearing masks. They're not showing their faces. They come in the dead of night, and they're taking Americans. A lot of these people, you know, are citizens. And if they're not, they're still entitled to the due process rights. You can't just do what you're doing. You can't terrorize communities. And that's what Trump's doing. That's what his threat is. He's at war with us. That's the war. He mentioned that in his little speech. And he's, you know, there is a war within. There is an enemy within. That's who we are. And that he expects the generals to help him with that.
Yep.
And,
Joel, I don't know about you, but I can tell you I'm not Venezuelan. I mean, I don't know if he's at war with me. So,
yeah, you know, I agree with everything Joel's saying. There's an interesting issue going on here. A lot of people speculate. Now I'm sounding like Trump. A lot of people say.
Hey, you already agreed with him on one thing about fat people in the military, so that's two for you right now, Bill.
that we're heading toward a civil war. That if we continue on the path that we're engaged in, we're going to end up in a civil war. That's the end result. I will tell you, I'm not so sure that Trump isn't already in a civil war. That he's already engaging in a civil war. The rest of us just haven't figured out that's what's going on.
It's a cold civil war, basically.
So I'm not so sure how cold it is anymore, Nance.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you, but Joel said, you know, the things that he's doing are so outside, are unacceptable. They become norms.
Right. No,
the idea of the military being in, whoever thought a president of the United States would talk about using our inner cities as training grounds for the military. That is absurd on so many different levels. And yet our safeguards, the Congress and the court aren't doing what they should do to protect us from it. The rails.
Bill, there's something I learned this morning, because I was trying to figure out why is that we're giving $20 billion to Milei, okay? The bottom line is Milei is Trump's mentor, okay? Bottom line, that they met prior to him becoming president. He's following the same first 2 years of Milei he's doing in America, from destroying government, taking all these things down. He's repeating that. And
Ed, I'm sorry, you're talking about Milei in Argentina.
Argentina, yes, Argentina. And the other problem, the fact is that one reason we're doing it, in fact, is that they're fearful. The Trump campaign is concerned the fact that if Argentina fails, that's going to affect the elections next year because he's actually following what they're doing in Argentina.
Yeah.
And you know, look, Trump is fanning the flames. So when we talk about a civil war, we're talking about the Charlie Kirk thing, where it's the liberals, the leftists, the radicals. We're talking about immediately after the Blanc shooting, or shortly after that same day, Trump is saying this is a war on Christians. Laura Loomer echoed that. Laura Loomer not only echoed that, but then also said basically how fucked up Michigan is because they've got a U.S. Senate candidate who is Muslim. You know, they're just trying to stir it up, and you see it. I think I might have mentioned this last week. I was on the way to a visitation in Sterling Heights. I was with a friend, and we were behind a pickup truck that had a Trump flag and, you know, Go Brandon bumper sticker. And then when I was in Blanc on Monday covering that story, I was behind a guy with two flags in his pickup truck, the same two flags that was in the killer's pickup trucks. And it's really a sign of we're ready, we're on board, we're ready to go, we're ready to rumble. We've got our weapons, we've got our guns, we've got our flags, and we've got our middle finger stuck to, you know, to anybody, the libtards or whoever, you know.
Well, so on that, I mean, we had the mass shooting in the Blanc Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and also the suspect who was taken down by authorities, Tyler Robinson from Burton, neighboring suburb of or exurb of Flint, apparently had a pickup truck, rammed it into the church. 5 people killed, others who are wounded. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's interesting to see how the narrative shifted. It was that these were liberals, that this was the radical left, and as soon as it was found out that he was actually a Trump supporter, it seemed as though the oxygen just got sucked out of the White House narrative.
Mental health.
And
it's all about
everything,
mental health, right?
And everything switched over to mental health. And interestingly, somebody from Utah, a member of the Mormon community, has raised $220,000 for the family of the suspect. And it reminds me of then the whole argument that was made regarding people giving money to the families of Palestinian terrorists in Israel. And it just seems as though everything has been turned on its side. Barb, I think you had your hand up.
I'm my comment sort of passed by. The conversation's gone on, so I'm gonna. No,
you're not saying that the thrill is gone, have you?
No, you know what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is that I think it's becoming increasingly clear that Trump's brain has left the building.
Yeah.
And I think that they're bringing Russell Vogt up, or however you say that man's name, to start gunning programs. And JD Vance is on the news again.
I mean, Project 2025 of the Heritage Foundation, of who Russell Vogt was the author of it, that seems as though it's been going on the whole time. But I think, but the point that you're making, though, I think House Speaker Mike Johnson was caught on a hot mic, admitting that the president is unwell, and is there a shift that's going on, Ed, to 2028, and who are they backing? Is it going to be Vance? Is it going to be Hegseth? Because that sounded at Quantico like Hegseth's preliminary speech for running in 28. And then, of course, you've got Marco Rubio, who's also waiting in the wings on that.
I think there's a movement to that, but the problem is, I think there's going to be more people coming up that's going to take on those people. Okay. Because right now is Trump's going after Vance sometimes. You got Hegseth. I mean, the question is who's going to survive the cabinet thing. We don't know that yet. Okay.
But see, it's going to be difficult because Trump has such an ego. I can't see him giving a nod to anyone because he doesn't think anyone is greater than him. It's on his same level.
Well, I agree with you on that. Yes, I agree with you on that. And the other thing that's kind of important is the fact is that you're talking about the fear. He took the mayor of Dearborn, who said he's not welcome in Dearborn to be an ambassador. And then you got this battle pursuing the county council when you can have prayer or not prayer. So how's that going to play out politically? So
do you think it's going to come down to which candidate is going to be, how can I put this delicately, more Melania than Melania to Trump?
Well, first of all, you can tell there's a battle going on because this week I didn't realize how many gay people are in Trump's cabinet. It's like Rubio's gay and Mike Johnson's gay, and they got pictures now and they're on Tinder. I mean, it's like they're already going after everybody to try to eliminate the competition.
Right. I can see him putting up one of his sons. That's what I can see at the end of the day.
There is talk about
that would be a good time. Don Jr. snorting coke and eyes watering and screaming at us.
Barb, it's not that I disagree with anything you're saying, but I worry about us saying he's lost his mind, he's unwell, and all these other things, because the fact of the matter is he's implementing this clear plan. Mm-hmm. And he's doing it, and it's been effective. Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about his inabilities. I want to stop his programs. And I don't know who his successor is. I don't know that he'll allow a successor.
Well, the Supreme Court may determine that because they're telling him you can do whatever you want. Remember, the courts maybe rule more guns. You can have more guns now coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So on that point, Ed, I mean, it's a little bit of I don't know if you want to call it good news, bad news, but it's certainly helter skelter. The Supreme Court has denied the president's ability to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook for now. Mm-hmm. It looks like they're going to take the case up for argument in January. So who knows, maybe by the end of the term in June, they may give him that authority as well. But Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, at a talk that he gave prior to the term starting this coming Monday, hinted that the Supreme Court will no longer be bound by precedent when it comes to new cases. So stare decisis is going out the window. And Joel and Bill, I mean, as lawyers, I think that this is basically saying the quiet part out loud. This is something that's been going on for some time, and justices like Sam Alito have, in fact, written this in some of their opinions. But is this just going to be, let's go to, and here comes a term, ironically, for conservative justices, judicial activism run amok?
Yes. I mean, stare decisis is the foundation, upon which we practice, upon which we know what we can do and not do, what the law is. Stare decisis is fundamental to having a judiciary that really works. If you're going to start having Supreme Court justices arbitrarily decide what the hell they want to do, what their policy is, right, what they personally would like to see because of their ideology, and therefore say whatever came before us doesn't matter, it is heresy in my mind. That's heresy. That's absurd. And what does that mean? Does that mean that there is no law? I mean, what are you doing? So yeah, they're going to arbitrarily change the law. They're going to make it restrictive. They're going to strengthen the executive, which is they're doing. It portends very badly for any other branch of government because we're becoming an autocracy, obviously, and so yes, getting rid of stare decisis, getting rid of other legal doctrines is just going to push the clock back, and you're going to have gay marriage may go away, contraception may go away, marrying into minorities, that may go away. God knows what's going to happen.
That will not go away.
No. We look at
Clarence Thomas is an interracial marriage.
I'm telling you, if they start down that road,
unless he wants her to go away, then he will go along with it.
Nancy,
criticize those cases, upon which all the foundational civil rights were born. They have destroyed those. They are destroying those. And Bill and I do civil rights. It's terrifying. I'm wondering, do my clients who get beat up by police, do they really have a remedy? And if they get beat up by a federal ICE guy, what the hell are we going to do? Where do we go then? Are they going to be immune from suit?
Yeah, they are. I don't think there's any question. The answer to that's yes. Look,
yes.
I not only do I agree with everything Joel says, but I think from a historical perspective, you have to look at this and say, okay, we have this 3 co-equal branches of government. Don't seem to have those anymore. But one of the things about stare decisis is that the court system is designed to make sure that the dramatic changes that occur in our country happen in a measured way. And sometimes it's, as an attorney, it's been frustrated, because you want things to move more quickly. But the whole idea behind stare decisis is you don't want these dramatic changes in our society to happen overnight, because we have these shared values and we want to make sure that they get incorporated into our policy. But when you throw out stare decisis, what you're saying is, we don't give a shit about what those liberals decided. Mm-hmm. We're gonna impose our moral beliefs on the rest of the country right now. We're not going to wait for the country to catch up. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff that leads to civil war.
Well, I also think there's no need for Congress if the court keeps pursuing this pathway. You may have the U.S. Senate, but you may not.
Congress gave up a long time ago, Ed. I mean,
it did give up a long time ago, and that's one thing I want to bring up, because one thing this shutdown has done is it has exploded my phone with fundraising texts from various Democrats. And I am hitting stop, I am hitting delete, I am hitting block. I don't want to hear from one more Democrat until I see evidence that they are doing anything other than, the few people like Pritzker and
Newsom
and a few other people. Your good friends, your leaders. Why is he even still in office? He is MIA. Same with Alyssa Slotkin, who will occasionally stick her little head up and go on to a very high-minded podcast to talk about the future of the Democratic Party. But it's like, until these people start acting like the house is on fire and pulling the alarm and doing something about it, you aren't getting another dime from me. And Ed can probably tell you, I think we've heard a lot about how the New York Times just had a poll this week that said that not only has Trump's approval rating not really dropped much in these last few months, the Democrats are actually lower than him. And that is why it's like, I'm ready at this point to elect Zoran Mamdani to be president of the United States, because at least he is talking about something serious. I mean, Congress is just sitting on their ass, and it's pissing me off. Sorry. So
the question is, what is stare decisis? Someone said, it is past precedent, and it is the presumption that the Supreme Court, in order to maintain some level of continuity and constancy for the interpretation of the Constitution, will give deference to and presumption to the validity and the constitutionality of past Supreme Court decisions. It allows us to then live in a society so that we're not basically going in a ping pong match back and forth, depending on the composition of the court, that these very important, really bedrock principles that undergird our society stay constant, unless there's some, of course, really egregious mistakes that the Supreme Court has made, like with Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal, stuff, and the Civil War things. But other than that, we give a lot of precedent to that. Alan, I think we should.
Wait, Joel, doesn't it scare the hell out of you when a non-lawyer gives a better definition?
It's like, I guess my idea is wrong. It's like the problem.
Well, Bill, I was.
How do you spell that? Decisive.
Well, I'm glad Fishman's not here to tell us it's not stare decisis. But Nancy, I just wanted to correct one thing. The whole thing about saying that Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas.
One more in the room.
That miscegenation won't happen. Remember, Clayton Bigsby. That's all I need to say.
Clayton Bigsby? Okay.
Clayton Bigsby, the blind black white supremacist played by Dave Chappelle, who when he found out that he was black, he divorced his wife because, well, I won't say the rest.
Okay.
But anyway.
I am Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
In 1937, Detroit was in turmoil. Auto workers were on strike, and union strength was growing. A local minister and part-time labor broadcaster was found fatally injured at the Ford Rouge assembly plant. These dramatic events come to life in the play Forgotten, the murder at the Ford Rouge plant.
The boss has got to sign when you organize.
Actors, singers, and musicians tell the true story of how Detroiters built a union town while searching for clues to solve a mysterious death.
The strength of 100,000.
See Forgotten at Mary Grove Theater, October 10th through the 12th. Tickets are $35 at Eventbrite or at MichiganLaborHistorySociety.com.
Everyone go see that play.
Speaking of Civil War, one of my neighbors has fired up a gas-powered blower, so I need to go out and start firing, but that's okay. As long as you can't hear it on the show, it'll be all right. So.
Does that not violate a City of Grosse Pointe ordinance or something?
Well, I have asked myself that question many times because we do have noise ordinances here, but for some reason, I think people value perfect lawns more than they value peace of mind. And there have been days when I was doing, for instance, a radio interview, and for a while I had crews that came on the same schedule and they were both rolling, and I had to go into my closet and shut the door to finish doing this interview because it was so loud. I hate those things.
You sure it wasn't Kevin Adele who said that?
Alan,
are you sure that?
I think you've got a new story here. Veteran journalist admits to being in the closet.
Actually, a closet, if you ever have to do like an interview from home, a closet makes a great poor man's sound booth because, all the clothes, it's great. So anyway, go ahead.
And it works during a tornado as well there, Nancy. So you mentioned, someone mentioned the federal government shutdown. We're now in our third day of it, and there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. I think, Alan, we have a video showing contradictory views on who would be responsible for ending such shutdowns.
Point is, a government shutdown is obviously not great, which is why the president should get congressional leaders in a room together and hash out a deal. I mean, that's obvious to everyone, including this guy back in 2011.
If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
The president's the leader, and he's got to get everybody in a room, and he's got to lead. In 25 years and 50 years and 100 years from now, when the government is, they talk about the government shutdown, they're going to be talking about the president of the United States.
Trump, if there's a shutdown, it's the president's fault. Now, here's the part of the show where I would usually play a clip that contradicts what Trump just said, but I'm not going to do that this time. We all know Trump's a hypocrite and he never pays the price for it, so it doesn't matter. So there's no point. I'm not going to play a clip of Trump saying something like, oh, I don't know, if there's a shutdown, it's only because of the Democrats.
If there's a shutdown, it's only because of the Democrats.
We got one more.
We're also moments away from a government shutdown, which is just great. Democrats want Republicans to agree to continue funding the Affordable Care Act, whereas Republicans want to use that money to add crab legs to the omelet station at Mar-a-Lago. And Trump is threatening to make irreversible cuts if there's a shutdown, which, you know what, I was recently the victim of a government shutdown. They are reversible, I will tell you that.
Excellent.
I love him.
What do you think is going to happen? What's going to break the deadlock, and how is the government going to get back into session?
Well, first of all, right now, what we've learned in past history, Trump has already made the mistake. He's claimed ownership of the shutdown. Okay, he's taken ownership. He's told he was going to do it, all that kind of stuff. The reason why the Democrats can drag this out because he's taken ownership of it. He told them what he's going to do. And usually what happens with shutdowns, sooner or later, Wall Street or something has to happen of consequence that impacts his funders, okay? Or the United States Chamber of Commerce will start calling attention to, and that's when things begin to move. Because what you're already seeing it already in the U.S. Senate, if you talk to some of the congressmen, or I mean, U.S. senators that that I've known from my other clients, is the fact is that the senators are already talking. They know this shit's got to get done, but there has to be pressure put on Trump so they can do their business in the Senate to get a deal cut.
Well, they are referring to it. They're trying to rebrand it or whatever as a Democratic shutdown. I heard Karen Levitt on NPR radio this morning saying the Democrat shutdown.
People don't believe that right now. People don't believe that.
Yeah. No, and they've got, both sides have their own messaging. The right is saying it's the only reason we're shut down is so that we can continue to give health care to illegal aliens, which we don't. And the other side is saying that it's shut down because they want to help or take health care away from people like us.
Well,
so
I have a lot of friends that are elderly and they're Republican, and their bills are starting to be impacted. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that's the group that usually have money, especially in Grosse Pointe. I'm talking to people like that. So they can't do this for very long. People are already experiencing it, and many of them are Republican or Southern states.
But they're putting out the soundbite now, right? You're right, Ed. Putting out the soundbite that older Democrats are about to fold. So this will get done pretty soon because they're about to break, they're about to fold. So
those are the same people in Grosse Pointe that own those gas-powered leaf blowers, I believe. Barb.
The socials are completely flooded with fake documents, that look official, that have the whole Democrat agenda, which is give illegals health care, give illegals Medicare. And I mean, they use that. And I mean, I've seen these, and it's like, that's not even, I mean, if you've ever seen an official document, you're not,
but it's not just that, Barb. They're violating the Hatch Act by using official government websites to blame the Democrats. So
exactly.
And now they're mailing to everybody's home. They're not even doing in-office mailings. They're mailing it to their home so they can claim to get around the Hatch Act.
Exactly. And then I was in DC all last week, and I noticed in my, when I was in the hotel, their commercials, because they're having a election there too. And every 2 minutes, any Democratic candidate, they are using and pushing it hard that they are for transgender. They're for putting money in the budget to have your kids. I mean, they have direct commercials saying allowing your children at 12 years old to change their sexual gender, all of that. I mean, it is unbelievable how the race is for their local elections in DC and the rhetoric they're pushing with their commercials. It's an
litter boxes in the classrooms.
Yes.
Alan.
I have a question for Ed. How does the Democratic Party convince voters not to vote against their best interests, like farmers, FBI agents? How do it's just amazing how the Republicans have convinced them to vote against their best interests. How did the Democrats counter that and say you?
Well, here's the problem. This started way back in the 50s and the 60s, and that's one reason why everybody in Detroit left Detroit, because it's the many paying for the few. When it's the white people that were on welfare, it's all these type of things. It comes down to racial and divisional politics, okay? That's why unions have so hard to keep the white male in the union, because the fact is like, oh, God, I don't want those minorities. It always becomes a division. That's all Trump talks about. He's claimed he's a lover of blacks, but he's always he's accusing blacks or Arabs, all that kind of stuff. It's like, if you people that left, the 67 riot was partly based on the fact of the whites leaving Detroit because they didn't want the many paying for the few. It's always attacking the people. The whites more benefit, but they keep blaming the poor people, the black guy, okay? That's
always been a deflectiveness. That's the plan. That's the recipe.
It hasn't changed. And I grew up in Detroit. That's all I ever heard.
But I do think, Ed, I think that Alan's question is still important. How do we change? Alan,
very quickly answer for you. I mean, once it impacts them personally, okay. The reason I'm getting my Republican friends changing. Oh my God, I no longer get money from the state. I have to get food stamps again. Okay. Oh my, we're going back to food stamps. Where's my card? Okay.
But
I've got a guy he's got his wife can't even get his medication because I don't have the money anymore to pay for the medication. Oh, I thought you were a Trump supporter. He's the one that's doing this. Once it starts impacting them, that's when you're going to see them change. We're not there yet. We're club.
Well, I hope you're right, Ed. Because
I hope you're right too.
I'm amazed by the fact that I haven't seen that, and I think I would have by now. I think part of this is that, there are some issues that people can be convinced of by looking at the quote facts.
No, it has to hit the person. I'll give you back to 2004.
But no, I agree with you.
George Bush was going to win Michigan until the whole debate turned to health care to farmers. When all the kids were leaving the farm and the parents had nobody to make the farm to pay their bills and cover their stuff. That's why Michigan flipped in 2004 because of health care, even though Bush was winning nationally because of the fact it came down to their pocketbook. The Republican farmer says, nah. It's me that's important.
Yeah, look at. I think the other, but I think the other part of it is if you don't look at the facts, it's all about emotion, and I think that's what you were talking about with the few paying for the many.
Yes,
and if you're basing it on emotion, you can ignore all the facts in the world, and those intentions will just lead you to the gates of hell.
Well, the church that I go to in the morning at 6:30 Mass, most of them are all Republicans, older Republicans. And now I hear them talking about this bill. They're all senior citizens because they go to the morning Mass. It's all of a sudden they're starting to talk, I can't believe I did this, all that stuff, It has to impact them personally.
But they are saying that now?
Yes. Because you got to remember, 40% of the increase in voter turnout in Michigan in 24 was a 40% increase in people over 66. Hear what I said? 400,000 new senior citizens that didn't vote in 2020 voted in 24, and they were rural and they were Republican.
And if I can add to that, Bill, just add to that, and all of us have, and I know I definitely have a lot of Republican friends as well, that we have these honest dialogue. And Ed is right. Of course, if it hits them and affects them, that's when you get anyone, because it hits them in their pocket, get their attention. However, I'm pleased to hear that some of that, even if they're not getting hit, they're concerned because it's going too far. When you look at the number of shootings that are occurring now, you going into churches or schools, they are putting the rhetoric right at the feet of this current administration. And that's what's also giving them pause. That's what they're telling me. It's going too far. And they think that he is inciting an increasing number. But you're right, Bill, the proof is in the pudding. We're going to have midterm elections come up in 2026. And that's when you'll see whether what they're saying now, it really will change their minds, is going too far. That's really is going to tell the story if they're changing or if they're just doing some talk right now.
One more thing, Beverly. The one thing that's important, the only vote that's left out there that Republicans don't deal with is the Libertarian Republican. This whole ICE thing is anti-libertarian. You're going into my backyard. You're telling me what I can do or not do, okay?
Right.
So it's bottom line, once the Libertarian Republicans kick in, Trump is dead.
Yeah.
Ed, there's another element to this. Current
watch out for the redistricting, flipping seats.
Incumbent mayor New York City Eric Adams has dropped out of the race, effectively making it a three-person race now between Zoran Mamdani, who's in the lead, former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, who lost to Mamdani in the Democratic primaries, and then Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa, formerly of the Guardian Angels. And Trump has threatened to cut funding to the city of New York as a way to weaponize this whole idea of the purse, that if they vote for Mamdani, then he's going to withhold money that's already been earmarked by Congress. And I was listening to an interview of Florida Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez, who actually said, well, it's our job to go ahead and re-examine things that apparently they've already earmarked and have already okayed. Actually, I'm sorry, let me take that back. It's okay for the executive branch to earmark what we have already as Congress passed. So do you think that that's something that libertarians will also explore when it comes to their understanding of civics and government?
One main problem in New York, and then 4 years ago, I actually did the targeting for a number of candidates in New York. I built their database for them to get out the vote. What I found in New York, the problem is you have what I call the money class in New York. Okay. And so if it impacts them, then they're gonna go along with Trump because they believe it's back that, the little guy, the poor guy is getting all the money. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the problem. So the bottom line, the libertarian in New York is more money oriented, motivated than the other libertarians.
Yeah, they're Wall Street geeks. They're and of course the moneyed class in New York lives better than any, emperor from history. I mean, it's just the amount of money that there's in New York these days is simply mind-boggling. Manhattan is essentially a gated community.
But what is so funny fact is all the billionaires that are Democrats live in New York. Okay. When I'm dealing with race in California like that, I said, where's the money coming from? It's all our billionaires in New York. They're all from Wall Street. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the problem with the libertarian side there.
Can I ask how many of these people, though, in Manhattan actually are voters in New York? I mean, it seems like there was this giant exodus of people, immigrants, people from other countries coming and buying up all that fancy real estate. A lot of South Americans and
Chinese, Russians.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I'm really curious how many of them are actually going to vote, or if they're just putting their money into Andrew Cuomo. I mean,
well, the Andrew Cuomo, does it matter? Isn't that the real? Isn't that the real evil of Citizens United?
Yeah,
it doesn't.
That's what it is.
It doesn't matter for voters if their money is in the campaign. That's what makes a difference.
Better than a vote.
I want to admit I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I'm going to. I'm not much into New York City politics. I just don't find it as interesting as I think a lot of other people do. And so I haven't been much into it. But I'll tell you, when Cuomo and Trump got together, and, I think Trump had a lot to do with Adams getting out of the race, and this is a deal between Trump and Cuomo. I thought, I got to look in this Mamdani guy. He's got to have something going for him. And
his family's very wealthy.
But they're not that kind of wealthy, Ed. I mean,
policies are very interesting, and he's very well spoken. I've spent a couple hours watching YouTube speeches. I think that this guy is going to benefit from what's going on. I don't know that the city of New York will, because I think Trump's vindictive enough and he's enough of an asshole that he probably will cut funding to New York City. But I mean, this guy is a real force. And when confronted with these absurd allegations about, is it true that you're a communist and stuff? I mean, watch him. He's very good at dealing with this stuff. And he may be the young Bernie Sanders that a lot of people have been looking for.
Okay, what I'm looking at when I talk to the people around him, here's what they tell me. They don't say this because they don't know Michigan, but the point being, he has a good side of Mike Duggan keeping business in place to support the city, okay? Because he's already talked about business. Business is afraid what he's going to do on the social co-ops. So my friend's saying the fact that he's a mini Mike Duggan, okay? Because the fact that he has been reaching out to business, don't lead me. I'm saying this, but a lot of this because I want to get elected, okay? He's going to follow through. I agree with you, Bill. But he is smart on the side. Because if he loses business, I don't care what he wants to do. He's done.
Right. I agree. But he's not, I mean, he's not a communist.
No.
And to say you're a democratic socialist, I know that term has been maligned, but
everybody's a Republican socialist.
We've got things like Medicare, Medicare and
Bill,
Medicaid, and I mean these things are programs. You mess with somebody's Medicare, I'll tell you, you really cut back on Medicare, not Medicaid. The thems and us allows you to get away with messing with Medicaid. You go after Medicare, you talk about cutting Medicare funding, he won't get a fucking vote from people overseas.
The other thing that's big, what's going on right now? Well, most of us are getting up in the air. What's also changing is Medicaid, because most people right now, their parents are going on Medicaid in their later lives because they can't take care of them at home. Okay, I mean, I've seen a lot of people. I've got a lot of wealthy people. Their money's all tied up with bills, so if you to go on Medicaid, as long as you can keep $2,000 a month in your own personal expenditures, but you can go on Medicaid.
I just lost a friend of mine. Unfortunately, she passed away, but They put everything into a trust, in an irrevocable trust. Then it's your and that qualified.
Yep.
And look, you could also go after Social Security. Talk about cutting Social Security benefits.
Right.
Man,
by
we'll
30%.
win that revolution.
Yeah, that they're talking. Well, technically, Social Security should not even have a problem if it was dealt properly. But business is killing that again.
Right.
Okay, the business is killing that again because the fact that the agreement that Trump had with the Democrats, but point being the fact is everybody's going to continue paying Social Security, even no matter how much you make, except between 176 and 240,000. They're going to give you a break until you reach that higher thing. Then everybody pays. But business says that means we have to pay more of our percent of Social Security. That's why it's not moving through Congress.
Well, even if he were to go down the road of being purely socialist, I guess that would mean that he would have to start buying stakes in private companies. Oh no, wait a minute, Trump is already doing that. Anyway, last thing to, and by the way, I guess maybe just
we have that one video I want to show with Leslie Jones before we
we got that too. One thing I wanted to ask, just going around, we've got a 1 week continuance or an extension for deliberations for the Michigan state budget. Do you think that this is going to pass within the extension time?
As of today, all sides believe that it can happen.
Yeah.
As of today, all sides say it can happen.
I believe it will.
But you know, we're all talking to the same people. Yeah. Every Republican, Democrats, all because remember, they solved the problem on the roads. They solved the problem on schools. Everything that was big deal that everybody has to go back home, they've cut a deal on.
Right.
Well, that and the possibility of 24% taxing marijuana. So I think we're going to have roads that are so smooth. Wait a minute.
Or you're going to be high enough to think they're smooth. Either way, you're going to get that smooth feeling.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with the 24%. Look, I have no dog in this hunt, but the problem with the 24% tax on marijuana is to maintain profit margins. They're going to drive people to go back to
the
black market.
They're leaving already. You know,
I would say
killers, Alan, not black
the
market.
dispensaries have been rooted deeply enough now that I think they have convinced. I can't tell you how many women my age and older regularly visit a dispensary to just because it helps.
They love the gummies.
Yeah, they're gummies, right? It helps to get me to sleep on a rough night.
Well, Nancy,
I resent that imitation of my wife, Nancy.
But Nancy, if you go back to the 60s, everybody, when I was in high school or college, we always went to the senior citizens to get the drugs. The grandpies and grandpies were already doing it.
You had to steal it out of their medicine chest back then.
Yeah, but then also they grew up in the Second World War and the First World War. They knew about those drugs. This is
right. But you're right. The 10%, that's what the tax is now. 10%. They want to raise it to 25. 10% is artificially low, and the whole idea was to keep people, in the legal market, right? To make it profitable enough in the legal market. Now, I don't know what this is going to do, but I feel like these old ladies are not going to suddenly start dealing with Carlos the weed man or, Allan the weed man. I don't want to, call it casts aspersions on people with Latino names, but I just wrote a short story for a class.
Get every ethnic group in there. Shmuel.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I doubt they're going to go out and find a weed man so that they can do this, but who knows? I mean, it's possible. Other states,
they might just get a prescription.
And have you also noticed what marijuana is? I mean, the price has collapsed. You drive down I-75 south of downtown, and you will see billboard after billboard for dispensaries in Ecorse and River Rouge, and they're all offering like free this with purchase of any $10 purchase.
The golden age. The golden age.
We have too many pot stores. So if half of them leave, the other will become more profitable because for example, when I was doing a project for the city of Detroit, how do you have 134 pot shops?
Well, I know.
There's no way they're going to make money.
But drive up 96 or go up north, especially to Lansing, you have more and more of these
go to Mount Clemens.
Every small town in northern Michigan has at least two of them.
Hey, Beverly, if you're going up 96, they might change Tanger outlets to a factory marijuana outlet.
They have so many cannabis billboards going that way. It's almost time to show Bill's picture, to coincide.
No. Beverly, what did I do to you?
Nice segue. Very nice.
So appropriate for this conversation, though.
Come on, Bill.
This is an era that I do.
Oh, come on.
I
love it.
I think I used the iPad from you.
Bill, your case would be better if you didn't make this symbol when you were saying it.
When I was in Indiana 2 weeks ago, all these, Hoosier movers and shakers were saying their doctor tells them to drive up to Coldwater, Michigan, go right up I-69 and pick up some gummies, and you'll be fine.
I'm telling you, their doctors can get it for them.
No, exactly.
Yeah, we have one more topic, but I'm going to go ahead and table this to next week because I think there's going to be more on it, which is Trump's proposal for Gaza. So I have a feeling we'll have some time to talk about that next week. But Allan, I know you want to show a video, so let's go to the video before our last segment.
Tonight, President Trump is escalating his war against what he calls the last remaining segment of woke, accusing the Smithsonian of being out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was.
Oh, are we hurting your little feelings, you bitch? Honestly, I don't think museums go far enough. If you don't leave an African-American history museum weeping and wanting to give your closest black friends reparations, then they didn't do the museum right. You need those museums. Go study. Because when we close the museum, this is what happens.
And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look at slavery, let's talk about the fact that
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
Wait a minute, hang on. Isn't that the fitness bitch who lied about how I could get abs in 60 minutes?
I love her.
Oh, man. Leslie Jones. All right, last segment then, Al.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Beverly, who's your Schmuck of the Week?
Well, I only have one, but I have two different issues, and I won't even belabor this. Of course, is Trump. I won't say president, just Trump. Basically, how he's using our military and ISIS. Looking at the video out of Chicago alone, even chasing citizens on a bike. You see ISIS it's just deplorable and really unbelievable.
Did you see that clip of the guy on the bike with the yakety sax soundtrack to it? Yakety sax makes everything funny. You could add yakety sax to a funeral and people would just start laughing because it's just
right. And I know we've hit the bottom, and I know we laugh at this, but this is really serious. I cannot believe it. Just makes me think I cannot believe this is where we are, and this is only October, and he's only been around since January 20th.
Yep.
Right. What are they going to chase us? What are they going to chase one of us? That's possible. I'm not bullshitting. When are they going to chase us? We speak out, we exercise our First Amendment rights, we talk about Trump in a negative fashion. We think he's a bum. When are they going to come for us? That's what I'm waiting for. When are they?
If I can get to my bike before they do, I'm leaving us, man.
I think
exactly.
Real fear.
Right.
And Joel, it may just be one very strange coincidence, but Bill agreed with Trump twice on today's show. So,
Bill, that's why we got your photo up, because of that.
Beverly,
wait a minute. If you look at the issues I agreed with Trump on, Beverly, I think you would agree with me. I mean, is he fit? Are you trying to tell me that Trump's fit to lead the military?
I don't know, Bill. I had to dust off the abacus to count how many times you're agreeing now. So, all right.
But real quickly, that's my other one. Of course, with the president, with Trump, with the budget. When you're talking about trying to cut out so massively the amount with Medicare, Obamacare, all of that, and then where you're trying to redirect those funds, it's just a slap in the face, but it's really disgusting. And he's a leader, so he's definitely my Schmuck of the week. If he really cares about America, how dare you even think about cutting from Medicare?
Okay. Ed.
Well, actually, I have a schmuck that's actually two schmucks in one. Scott Benson, the Treasurer of the United States. He stole a quote from Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart, when he said here to Ingmar Bergman, "It doesn't say much to see that the problem with the American farmer don't mount to a hill of soybeans."
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Oh, I see what he's saying.
And the reason why he did that, part of the reason they gave $20 billion to Argentina so they wouldn't sell soybeans to China.
Right.
They took the money, sold $10 billion of soybeans to China. Now, at the end of this month, Trump is going to South Korea to talk to Xi about getting back the sale of soybeans to the United States and giving our farmers $10 billion.
Yeah, to keep voting for him. Yeah. Keep those Trump flags up in their yards. So
by the way, Ed, I think it was probably Ingrid Bergman, because if it was Ingmar, then that would make a whole different movie. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, it is Ingrid. It is Ingrid. I'm sorry. Yes, it is Ingrid.
No problem. Ingmar is the soybean version, the tofu version of Ingrid Bergman.
So when I heard the soybean, it was Casablanca, and that quote, I just thought it was so fun.
Okay, Barb.
The tiny smile of Mike Johnson is my schmuck this week. He was confronted by a lawmaker. It got picked up by a hot mic with his tiny smile, and she said, "The president is unwell," and he went. And she went on, to say, none of this is right. He's not right. And the shutdown, this is despicable. And he went, the Democratic shutdown. And she said, no one's trying to, she went on and on. No one is trying to give health care to illegals. And he went, yes, they are. And my palms itch when I see that, because I don't know why no one has clocked. I really don't know why none of them have clocked him yet, because he knows he's lying. He's lying. And there it is. It's just that tiny.
For total obnoxiousness, though, he was always trumped by Newt Gingrich. Nothing could beat that guy.
NPR had him on the radio the other day, and it was like, why am I listening to Newt Gingrich?
Yeah,
I don't know. There have been some winners. Tom DeLay, just really odious people. Joel,
I'm going to go with comedians I like. I like Bill Burr. I like Dave Chappelle. They took money. They were in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, I believe, and given a show. They were paid by Khashoggi. That's blood money. I'm disappointed.
They were paid by MBS.
I'm sorry. Who killed Khashoggi?
Who killed Khashoggi? Yeah.
Right. Had him sawed up. So I'm disappointed. I listen to Bill Burr's podcast, and he's very liberal. And I'm really surprised that he agreed to kind of normalize, Saudi. There's still essentially slavery there. It's a human rights, civil rights are nothing, obviously. And I think to give a facade of, hey, we're okay, we're just like you, which is what I heard Bill Burr say, they're just like you. It's like, well, the government's not just like me. So in any event, those are the guys. I'm so disappointed. I thought Dave Chappelle as well. Dave doesn't need I don't think anything. He gets $30 million, from Netflix for every special. I don't think he needs the cash. I was disappointed in that too. And he talked about First Amendment restrictions here and not about those in Saudi Arabia. I was very upset.
This is like the
Joel, I don't believe they have the First Amendment in Saudi Arabia to talk about.
Well, no, about not just be able to speak without getting killed, because
all
he
the
was
women in Saudi Arabia would like a word as well. So yeah,
right. In their contracts, they could criticize, the royal family. They had to stay off topic, for certain things, and that's how a comedian should be doing. If you're gonna go there, do your shtick, but do it real. Don't help these murderers out. My God.
Well, that's like the dead terrorist. I'll kill you.
Right. It's just, it bothers me. So those are my schmucks.
Now, see, Ed, are you sure you weren't booked for Riyadh too? That was funny. Nancy.
Oh, okay. The New York Times had a story this morning that was simultaneously infuriating and hilarious. Just It's a hard note to hit. About apparently when the diplomatic party, including the president, was preparing for the trip to Great Britain for the state visit a couple weeks ago, they wanted to give Trump wanted to give a sword to King Charles, I should say. And so he had one of his some State Department staffer who had the email Gift Girl 2025 contacted the Eisenhower Museum in Kansas somewhere, the Dwight Eisenhower Presidential Museum in Kansas, and said, "Can we have a sword?" And the head of the museum said, "No, this is the property of the United States government. We're not just going to give it to you so that you can give it to the King of England." And so they ended up giving King Charles a replica sword, and the commissioner of or the president of that museum in Kansas was fired, and not given a reason. It was, "We can't trust you with confidential information, blah blah blah." So I'm going to give it today because I'm sure, of course, Trump was behind all of this, but I feel like Trump's had so many Schmuck awards. They're starting to like fill up the mantelpiece in his Oval Office. So I'm going to give it to Gift Girl 2025, who apparently was fine with this. And I want to make one final note. You absolutely know. I know there's a whole art to these gifts because clearly King Charles doesn't need, a new set of bath towels or anything else. I mean, it's got to be diplomatic. It has to say something about the country that that it's coming from and the country is going to and our special relationship and all that stuff. But I absolutely am certain that Trump wanted to give King Charles a sword because he expects him to knight him at some point. He expects to be knighted. He wants that sword to be put on either side of his shoulder, his head. Too bad. It'd be nice if they missed and just cut his head off, but and hitting for it to be "Arise, Sir Donald."
Yeah.
So that's Gift Girl 2025. You suck. Your whole crew sucks.
Yeah, but Nancy, Trump felt insulted because of the fact he thought they were insulting him by offering all those different wine products and different ports.
Yeah, because he's a famous teetotaler, right?
Yes.
But this is actually a significant shift in British policy to accept gifts. They used to just steal things from around the world. So I think let's give
still holding a grudge over the Elgin marbles. Yeah, I know.
Parthenon marbles. Okay, Bill.
My schmuck of the week is the Israeli parliament, and in a not oft covered story here, they in a symbolic motion, it's not binding, voted to annex the West Bank. And when you consider annexing the West Bank and eliminating all the people in Gaza, that G word, what's that G word that people have been bantering about? Looks like genocide to me. I think that this is it's despicable. It's amazing. The Jewish people are better than this. And I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't even a close vote. It was 71-13. You want to make matters worse? This is how.
Yeah.
All right. Allan.
I'll agree with Bill, but I also, one of the things that bothers me is that there is a proposal for peace, and Trump or Netanyahu is being forced to take it, which he's agreed to, and Hamas keeps saying the guys in Doha who are living in 5-star hotels are saying we need a little bit more time to think about it. It bothers me that there's not a urgency to resolve this, to end it finally. And I think, no question, look, Israel's gone into the Gaza City now in this big, move to the final straw, which they did in Rafah, which they did in Khan Yunis. It's a flawed policy, but it's almost like both sides don't want it. Netanyahu wants to stay in power, Hamas wants to stay in power, and they're both fucking it up for the Palestinian people. That's my.
Well, that's. I hope nobody viewed my statement to support.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm against.
In my opinion, is playing Israel on this. Clearly, Hamas, from my view, is a radical Islamic organization. It is not representative of the Palestinian people, but they have successfully played Israel on this.
I agree.
Why don't we leave this till next week? The one thing I will say is that why Hamas has apparently delayed it is because they were waiting for Netanyahu to be Netanyahu. He went back to Israel and he said, "Listen, I'm not giving up anything. There is going to be no state, and the IDF isn't going to leave ever." So I think that Hamas was probably waiting for Netanyahu to say the quiet parts that he was going to say out loud. But we'll pick up with this next week. Alan, who's your schmuck?
All right, we'll talk about that more. My one is Laura Loomer, a Trump ally, who weighed in right after the shooting, the Grand Blanc shooting, right away saying another attack, echoing what Trump was saying, an attack on Christians, and then also throwing in how fucked up Michigan is. In fact, they've got a Muslim running for U.S. Senate, referring to Abdul El Sayed. And the other one is Kash Patel for terminating or for whatever the relationship with the Anti-Defamation League, which is a civil rights organization. They're just fighting anti-Semitism and really racism, Islamic phobia, all that kind of stuff. They work very closely with the FBI and ATF and putting together. They research. They have their own investigators who are very good investigators who investigate hate groups and domestic terrorist groups. And he's cutting them off because I think partly they didn't like the way they characterized Charlie Kirk's organization in their literature. And then he also said, Kash Patel said, the ADL is spying on American citizens. We're talking about hate groups and domestic terrorist groups, which is what the FBI job is supposed to do, is to monitor those groups. So anyways, that's Kash Patel, who's also fired more than a dozen FBI agents. So
stupid. I think the irony with that, Alan, is that I think Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the director of the ADL, is like Icarus and Daedalus. I think he flew a little bit too close to the sun with the relationship. The accusations against Greenblatt were that he allowed Musk's Nazi salute, gave it justification because he wanted to be in proximity to the Trump administration. It is true that the ADL apparently has spied on American citizens, including college students who were simply protesting against what was happening in Gaza, and then reporting along with, I think, another group called Batar to the.
You think that's what he's referring to?
That Kash Patel is?
Yeah.
I don't know on any given moment what are the rationales, but as far as if somebody were to make the argument and look at evidence of what ADL has been doing, and I would actually argue that FBI knew about this and encouraged it. And that's, of course, the hypocrisy of Kash Patel. He'll go ahead and say, we told you to do this, but now we're going to go ahead and condemn you for doing it, which is sort of standard play for the FBI. But just a little bit more sort of context for that. So I've got three real quick ones. One is actually FBI Director Kash Patel, but not for the reasons that you said, Alan. It's because he gifted some New Zealand officials 3D printed guns, which are apparently illegal in New Zealand. So much for that. The other one is MAGA, and particularly former race car driver Danica Patrick, for coming out against the announcement that the NFL made that the Puerto Rican U.S. citizen, of course, artist Bad Bunny, or should I say El Conejo Malo, is going to be the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and apparently is going to be performing entirely in Spanish, which is his native language and his right. They are just going berserk. Despite the fact that, of course, MAGA loves to go ahead and watch sports where you have Hispanics and Black Americans and others who I'm sure they have no problem with them being raided with ICE, even though they are U.S. citizens. And the third one is, I have to say, just absolutely ashamed. American Ryder Cup fans at the Black course at Bethpage over the weekend saying the most egregious and nasty things to the players mid-stroke and their families, including their wives, particularly the wife of Rory McIlroy. The European side won outright. We can talk about another schmuck, the PGA president, who's another odious person. But I thought the best comeback when someone asked Rory McIlroy, what do you think was the cause of the American fans being the way that they were, being so loud? And she says, well, alcohol definitely played a role, but so did Tylenol.
And Long Island. It's like, it's just, you know, anyway.
Well, and remember, the president showed up on day one, and I think he probably got the crowd ginned up for, being the MAGA Cup. All right, sorry we've gone a little bit over, but we had a robust set of topics to go ahead and discuss today. Thank you, Ed Sarpolus. Thank you, Beverly Watts. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. And thank you, and always with the last word, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely and go Tigers.
Go Tigers, and have a great weekend.